Hello, friends. Welcome to my channel Q Analysis, and I'm your host Prashant Kumar. Today, we are going to start our webinar. Today, we are going to hold our webinar on the topic No More Defect Rejection. So, in this webinar, we'll talk about different ways in which you can manage your defects, how you can handle your defect reporting and defect management, and why is the defect that you report as a tester or as a QA analyst, they are being rejected by development team or by your project managers or product managers or from the business side. So in today's webinar, we'll cover all these topics, and I'm pretty hopeful after this webinar, after this presentation, your defects will no longer be rejected and you'll have a higher and a better way of defect reporting and handling your defects. So let's go ahead and start with the webinar today. My first question for you is, do you put a lot of effort in finding defects and still are they getting deferred or rejected? You think your defect to be critical, but others, like others in your team, may be your product managers or your development team, team leads, or the member from your business side, they don't think it is critical? My third question is, your tests are considered as more of validation and verification types and not as a business critical task. Often it happens that when you go ahead and you talk about your test, the kind of test you perform, and post that, it is said that, okay, I understand this is a kind of verification thing or validation, but this is not something which is business critical, so let's leave it for now, or maybe in upcoming version we can take it ahead, something like that. Is it getting hard for you to showcase your importance in the team or to your clients? Many of my colleagues or maybe the juniors and people who are starting their career as a software tester or QA analyst or somebody who's taking my consultancy services, they get in touch with me and they ask that I'm not getting a proper kind of importance in my team. Even though I'm putting my best effort, I'm putting defects, I'm figuring out using manual testing or automation testing or performance testing, I'm identifying nice defects which are good, which are critical as per me, but then still my team, my managers, and my business side, they are not acknowledging it. They are not giving proper importance to me. I don't know what to do. So friends, if you have such kind of issues, such kind of problems, then I would recommend you to watch this video till end, and all of your problems will be resolved. I can guarantee you that. Also, if you want, feel free to get in touch with me via my channel or through LinkedIn or through my blog. I do offer mentorship services for all QA folks and software testers. So you can just check out, I'll give you the link. Feel free to get in touch with me and I can help you with your career-related problems and how to grow as a software tester and quality analyst. So let's figure out answer to these questions and how we can do defect management in a proper way so that we should reclaim our position in the team as well as in the business side. So here is a slide for you on the funnier note. I hope this is what we as a testers, we have to face on daily basis. Testers are not everyone's favorite. So you can see Dilbert is my favorite cartoon. So you can see it over here. I've been asked to explain our technical team, our technical issues in terms you can understand. And then you have it, the other guy saying, good. The software, it no working. Yeah, the software is no more working. And then he's talking, he was dense and touchy, it's a bad combination. Exactly. So whenever as a tester, we go ahead and try to tell somebody that whatever you have done, let's say as a developer, whatever you have done, whatever you have developed, I don't think it is working correctly. There's something wrong. The implementation is not correct. The expected behavior and actual behavior are not matching. Whenever we go ahead and say something like this, it's a human tendency, guys. It's a human tendency. Whenever you go ahead and say something which is the other person's mistake and they're not ready to listen about it, the first thing they'll do is to ignore it. 99% people, may it be you or me or may it be anyone, whenever you go ahead and tell on their face this is something wrong you have done, the first thing which comes into human psychology, the first thing which comes into their mind is to reject it or to run away from it or to find a excuse or to prove that you are right and the other person is wrong. Same thing happens with the other side. Whenever we as a tester go ahead and tell to somebody that I don't think you have implemented it correctly. I don't think the requirement you have designed and the requirement what we have implemented is in sync. The expected and actual behavior is not matching. Not everyone will be taking it with a sportsmanship spirit or with a positive note. So here is what we have to figure out: why is your defect getting rejected? When you're saying something, when you're reporting something as a defect and the other person is rejecting it, what is the reason? Why is your defects getting rejected? No documented requirement that mentions the change details and the result expected. Now in the world of agile, it is pretty common. User stories and things are written on the fly and everybody starts working, things being agile. People, they want to be fast and dynamic. In that case, many time documentation is lost. I'm not a very big fan of unnecessary documentation, just like STLC. I'm a big fan of lean methodologies, but still you need to have three things. First, requirement or user story defined. Second, definition of done, and acceptance criteria. Until unless you have definition of done and acceptance criteria attached to a requirement, there is no point testing it, because your documentation will still be incomplete for that requirement. And even if you try to understand it, you give your best by understanding whatever has been written, and you try to test the system on the basis of your understanding, and you come up with a kind of defect or issues, I don't think that is a 100% foolproof scenario. There'll be always something missing because documentation was not complete, and hence your defects may get rejected. Changes to a particular environment, changes to a particular requirement were not notified to tester or missed out. Yes, again, in the agile or extreme programming cases, this is very common. Things being dynamic and moving at a very fast pace, changes, they keep on happening. Changes to the infrastructure, changes to the architecture, changes to the implementation, changes to the test environment, changes to the data, changes to the business logic. It keeps on taking place. Even now, on day-to-day basis, whenever I'm performing any kind of testing for any of the projects or the product, it keeps on happening on day-to-day basis, and then we have to keep a tab on it, right? So this thing is very important, that as a tester, you should be notified. I'm not saying a formal notification. It can be a notification through email or notification through a chat or verbally, or may it be using any notification system. But if at all anything is changing, you should be aware of it. And not necessarily somebody will come and tell it to you. You have to be proactive, and you have to listen to the thought process, what the other person is saying, their actions, and what are their impact on the product which is being developed. So if you're not doing this, your defect may get rejected. The requirement is yet to be developed completely, but tested or testing started early. Yeah. So many time it happens that requirement is yet to be developed, but then some point of time we go with the concept of test early, test often. So testing started early, whereas the requirement was not yet complete and it was evolving. So again, you have to keep on checking, like divide the requirement into subtasks or sub requirements, and instead of focusing for requirement as a whole, you can see, okay, these are the small requirements or the small chunks of requirement, and these requirements, they have a definition of done or acceptance criteria or at least expected result, and these can be marked as complete. And let's say if you have a bigger requirement, and that bigger requirement is divided into small 5 or 6 small requirements, maybe 2 or 3 of them might not be having a complete requirement definition, and 3 of them, they have finalized one. So you should focus on testing those 3 requirements, sub requirements which are completely defined. Go ahead and test it. Maybe you can create a mock function or a stub or a driver script or maybe a dummy data to go ahead and test those requirements which are already completed. If at all you miss on the requirement or you start testing a requirement because you're testing early. Understand with the current model, test early and test often is something which is required from testers. But if you start testing it on an early basis and requirement is yet in evolving phase, it will require a lot of duplication of efforts. And even if you find out defect, I'm not very sure that it will be a valid defect. Any point of time, managers or testers or product owners, they can go ahead and defer it or reject your defect, saying the fact that it was not yet completed, it was not yet finalized, and because of the reason, we cannot accept it. The defect is in area of the application not within the scope of development, that is external system, third party, content, etc. Many times it is seen that there are so many dependencies involved. There are so many people who are involved in different kind of testing process, right? You could be having you could be having a legacy system, you could be having a legacy system, you could be having a data where it is very hard for you to control the data, or you could be having different kind of third-party softwares, or maybe the point back-end, front-end related dependencies, or some content management related issues. So there could be so many dependencies or external factors on which your testing is relying upon. So any point of time when you have something like this, try to have confirmation from the third parties, or at least have a dummy or a replication model which is more or less like a real-time production environment, so that you can use that dummy in your testing just by attaching the modules or making connection to or making a call to those dummy things which are more or less like a production environment, and hence you can ensure that your testing is very much like a production environment. Or else it may happen that even if you're done with the testing, since the evolving third parties are changing, so because of that, your overall testing process or results are also getting impacted. Business users always accept result and faulty system is out there in production since the beginning or for a long time. Yeah, many times it happened there was something which was wrongly developed or not properly tested, and it went out to the production, and then it is in production since long, and everybody is okay. They know it's a known issue, and everybody is okay with it, and they keep on doing it for long. That is the reason often I have seen many bugs which are rolled out in some production model, and they are there since long. Nobody think about it. Okay, we should go ahead and fix it, because they know users more or less have accepted it, so they are okay with that. If you have some scenarios like that, even if you have a valid defect related to scenario which is already in production and they have certain defects, nobody will care about it, right? So these are the few reasons because of which your defects might get rejected. Now, if you don't understand the requirement clearly, you definitely look out for the misinterpreted requirement. And in the actual implementation, when you look for the misinterpreted requirement, when you don't find it, you will call it as a bug, which will definitely get rejected, right? So until unless you have a proper requirement, that is very important point. You have to get requirement frozen with the proper DOD and acceptance criteria, or at least you should have a confirmation from the different stakeholders. This is what you're going to do, and even if things are evolving, there should be a deadline, there should be a timeline. Like, I understand you have to keep on testing something, and the product is evolving. It is most of the time it is done in agile or iterative model. Okay, fine. But if developers are developing something and they are accepting us developers to go for TDD, test-driven development, so they come up with the test case first and they start developing it. First, the test case is failing. Later on, they have a developmental model which is working. If you want to know more about the TDD and BDD, you can refer my other videos from my channel, where I have given a complete set of webinar on test-driven development, role of a tester in continuous integration and continuous testing, and behavioral development. So feel free to watch those, and you'll get an idea about it. You can take a lot many best practices from those videos. Over here, I'll mention three main important things which you should take care. First, defect rejection related to test data. Yes, always use the test data which is realistic and not something which is unrealistic. If you use an infinite number, or if you use this kind of scenario which is not at all realistic in the current business scenario, then I'm pretty sure it is pretty obvious that the defect you're reporting, that will be rejected. Nobody would dare to take care of those defects which are unrealistic. Nobody is getting impacted. Why should I care about it, right? Second thing, defect rejection related to test environment. There are so many test environments, test environment parameters, and which could be involved in several kind of things, like whenever you're testing, whenever you're doing some kind of verification, validation, manual testing, automation testing, whatever you're doing. If at all people are not happy. Hi Ram, I can see you greeting me. Thank you for joining this presentation. I can also see Guneet and many other folks joining this webinar presentation. Uh, Feel free to let me know what are your thoughts, and I'll try to answer your questions in my presentation. Guys, you can chat me. I'm watching your chat since it is hard for me to go ahead and type. So what I'll do, I'll look at your questions, and if you have anything at the end of presentation, I go ahead and I'll answer those questions. Okay. So if you have a environment related defect, so on those defects, you don't have any control because it is occurring because the third party or a test environment. Test environment is dynamic; it keeps on changing. Maybe because of the developers, maybe because of the back end, front end, or the technology used, or maybe because of any third party dependency. There could be so many things. And if you have a defect because of that, you have to take care of it and report it with proper environment conditions, so that if at all it is changing, it is not relevant. Everybody who is involved in that developmental process should be aware of it, and your defect will not be rejected. But if you don't do that, any point of time somebody else is trying to look into your defect, and they'll figure out that it is not reproducible or it is not valid in the current environment, and just because there were certain dependencies involved, your defect would be rejected. Defect rejection related to test description, that is, if you figure out the issue, and then after figuring it out, you try to come up with the exact defect scenario, you're trying to report it, but then you couldn't give a right kind of description, you couldn't give a right kind of steps, or the error logs which you have given is not relevant, or the screenshots, or the missing information. All these things, if they are not properly attached to your defect will be ultimately rejected, because the person who is going to handle that defect, may it be developer or the business side, they will not be able to reproduce it, and they'll mark your defect as non-reproducible, and it will be rejected. Okay, guys? So with this, we move on to our next slide, which is something like how to prevent your defects from getting rejected. Now, this is the main point. This is the whole point of overall presentation of webinar, where we'll figure out what are the techniques we can use to prevent our defects from getting rejected. First, abstract summary of behavior, expected versus actual. Always make sure that whenever you raise a defect, you have two things handy with you. First, the expected behavior and the actual behavior. You should, if you have the right kind of documentation with you, you have a proper DoD and acceptance criteria, or user stories defined properly, you'll always have expected behavior. And then when you're performing testing, you'll figure out the actual behavior. And then depending on that, you can provide the abstracted summary of expected versus actual in your defect, so that it becomes very easy for the other person who is seeing that defect to understand and relate with it. Justification of why do you think this is a defect. You have to come up with your business understanding, you have to come up with your impact analysis quality, and come up. It's just not saying, okay, these things are not working. No. Being a tester, you are supposed to be a smart guy who should act like a technology guy, as well as who should act like a business guy. So you have to come up with your business justification. Why do you think this is a defect? You should come with a technical justification, business justification, and tell or mention it in your defect summary that why do you think this is a defect. Attach any relevant spec links, requirement links to support your claim. So whenever you have a definite set of specs or requirement or any kind of information which supports your justification, with which you can say, as per me, this should behave like in this manner, but it is not having the same kind of behavior. Actual behavior is not like that, and I have relevant spec or information which confirms the behavior. Attaching everything will support your claim. Then test environment used, including the hardware and software configuration. This is very important. Being a tester, you should be like, I recommend testers should create their own environment. May it be CI/CD, continuous integration, backend, front end, or any dummy data. All kind of environment should be maintained by the tester itself, and it should be a replica of the production environment. And then they can go ahead and attach the test environment related details, including hardware and software configuration. Clear and precise steps to reproduce the defect with defined priority and severity. I believe if you're a software tester, you must be aware of priority and severity. I'm not going to talk about it, but yes, you have to have a very clear priority and severity attached to the Jira. Then only it will be picked up. Until unless it is a high priority, high criticality issue, nobody is going to pay their attention, right? And if you think it is a high priority and high criticality issue, you have to come up with the right kind of justification. You have to come up with the right kind of environment details. You have to attach the relevant specs and expected versus actual summary plus the steps. And then only the person will be able, the developer or the business guy who is going to handle that issue, they'll understand the importance of that defect. Attach issue screenshot, video recording, error, exception logs. Yes, in order to make it reproducible, that's fine. But then you have to give in proper reproduction steps, proper made in form of video, or let's say in form of attachment, screenshots, error logs, exception logs, and the kind of whatever issues you are seeing in the system, may it be on the UI side or may it be on the error console or console side. So attach everything, put it together, so that whenever a person is seeing, he's seeing, okay, what is the criticality, what is the severity, what is the main issue, proper description with the steps and the screenshots, error logs, environment, and what are your thoughts? Why do you think it is a defect or a bug? And then relevant spec, requirement, and definition to support your claim. If you have all these things handy and together and put in together in a proper way, trust me, guys, being a software tester, this is what is expected out of you. You might be doing a manual testing, automation testing, it doesn't matter. The first and foremost thing, as a part of tester or as a part of testing, whatever you're doing, what are actions you're performing, depending on that, when you're identifying issues, what is the main motto? To report those issues to the developer or to the business users, and then they should understand, they should try to reproduce it. And your issue should be very much relevant. It should be like of importance. Unless you have a right kind of, you are reporting a right kind of issue with the right kind of importance and you're reporting in the right manner, nobody will give importance to you or what you're saying. You're a tester. You come at a phase when things have been designed and developed, and then you're testing it, and then before it is being sent to you. I believe it is a very important role, but nobody will give you importance until unless you yourself are going to claim your importance. You have to show your importance to the world and to your team and to your business users and to your client. You have to come up with something which nobody has figured out, and developers, the message, business analysts and the managers and product owners, they have missed it. But when it comes to you, and when you use the product, when you test it, you figured out the issue and you report it, and you report it with such a big bang in such a proper way that everybody, they are forced to listen to you. It is then they will give you a proper kind of importance. I have several practical techniques, but I don't want to make this presentation pretty long enough. So you can get in touch with me. I can help you with different kind of practical techniques, which I have learned in my 13, 14 years of experience as a software developer, business analyst, and tester, working across different projects across the globe, made by India, USA, UK, Switzerland, and Germany. I have a very vast variety of experience, so I can help you that. Feel free to take my services, and I'll help you with that. Now, this is a very important point for a tester. From a tester point of view, this is a very important thing, and I always put emphasis on this, which is think and act like a business user. Yes, my friends. If you are a tester, don't think you are just a tester and think on the technology lines. You have to think like a business user. Your testing should be business oriented. Most of the time, a tester, when they start testing in manual automation testing, they start testing as per the requirement, as per the development team, as per the business analyst, and they miss on the part that ultimately the product is going to be used by users, right? So you have to think like a business user. All your testing should be business oriented testing. I understand, okay, there are certain technical complexities involved, front end, back end, UI, design, and there's so many things involved, and you have to test it. It's fine. But a business user is never related, or he is least interested in all this technical aspect. He's more and more interested or inclined toward the usability side. He's more and more inclined toward the product and the service quality, which will be ensured just by a software tester, right? So being a quality professional or software analyst, always make business oriented testing as your primary concern. Always focus on business oriented testing, then only you can prove your importance to your users and to your clients and to your team. Business scenarios versus technical scenarios. Yes, you have to keep a balance between the business as well as technical scenarios. When you're testing with the developers, when you're testing with your architects, the designers, you have to think on the technical sides. You have to think on the various technical aspects which they have developed. And you have to think from the code side, the way it is implemented, what are the issues, what could be the issues, how to handle it, what is the best possible scenario, performance, and the functional and non-functional side. There are different kind of things which are attached to the technical scenarios. So you have to think on those lines. Plus, at the same side, being a tester, you're acting as a bridge between the technical side and the business side. So you have to start thinking on the business scenarios as well. As I mentioned in my previous point, business-oriented testing, all those points with respect to business usability, look and feel, product uses, services, subscriptions, e-commerce, if at all there is money involved, the UI, front end, and the kind of look and feel. What are the competitors doing? How your product is better? You have to think on all those lines. So, lot many business scenarios as well as technical scenarios should be handled by you. There should be proper balance between business and technical scenarios to be taken care by you as a tester. Real world business need, yes. In the real world scenario, yeah, there's so many factors which are influencing your product, right? You have your competitors, you have new product and services coming into the market, you have new technology coming into the market, you have a set of financial changes or social changes taking place, your social media out there, again you have marketing thing. Apart from that, there are so many other external factors which in real world business scenario can impact your product or service. So you also have to think on those lines. You can, like in today's market, you cannot just be sitting in front of your laptop listening to music and testing as per the requirement. No, you can never be a successful tester or software developer or IT professional or a QA professional just by doing what you're supposed to do. No, you have to think out of box. You have to be innovative. You have to look at the broader picture. You have to know about the business scenarios, how the world is changing, what are the new things which are coming into picture. You have to keep an eye on every detail. Then only you can grow and you can differentiate yourself from others. UI, backend, UI to backend, and end-to-end features. Yes, don't expect that somebody else will do testing for you. You yourself are responsible for the testing of the product or service from start till end. From end to end, all the features should be tested by you, made with the UI, middle end, middleware, or the back end, front end, middleware, or back end, or services, API, anything. I have created a lot many videos for different kind of testing, backend testing, ETL testing, front-end testing, exploratory testing, and middleware testing. So if at all you have any questions, feel free to refer my videos, and I am pretty sure it will give you a nice insight to different kind of testings. If you have anything else which you want to know, you can chat to the videos and post your comments, or get me connected at the LinkedIn, and you can share your views. I'll surely come up with different kind of videos on the topics and try to answer your questions. Last but not the least, final and integrated. Yes, the product which you're rolling out to the market, there are two versions. Let's say, for example, for the new users and for the updated versions. It has been seen that most of the business which is prevailing in the market, it comes from the existing users. 80% of business comes from the existing user, and 20% business only comes from the new users. So for any product or service, it is very important to test the existing component and the updated component. A final component which will be rolled out to the new users, final component which will be rolled out as the update to the existing users. So all these things you have to consider as a part of your testing effort and your test planning and different kind of scenarios which you should cover. It is then only you can prove your importance not only to your team but also to your business users and to your clients. How to handle rejection? Yes. Friends, this will not happen in a go or in a flash, right? It takes a little bit of time, practice, and then only you can improve on this line. So if at all you want to improve, then I can help you. Hello, Sheikh Imran. I can see your question, which is about how can we test a product when the product owner has asked to deliver half of the product as a delivery date cannot be postponed. Half of the product as a delivery. Okay, I'll answer your question once I'm done with my presentation. So please remain with me till the end of this presentation, and I'll answer your question. So how to handle rejection? I was talking about the different kind of ways through which you can handle. It is not easy to understand anything, it is not easy to implement anything in a single go, right? It takes a little bit of time and iteration and efforts, and then only you develop. And I personally believe in learning. So there are certain learning methods which you should implement. Whatever I have told you in this presentation, feel free to practice, and I'm pretty sure you'll improve on those lines. So read your bug report carefully and try to reproduce the bug. So every time when you report your bug to somebody else, you should read, before sending it to others, read it. And then you figure out, okay, you're meeting all the criteria. You can prepare a checklist and you can see whether you're meeting all the criteria or not. Analyze the reason of your bug rejection. If at all the bug is being rejected, analyze the reason. Establish whether it was a valid bug or not. Why do you think it was a valid and why the other person think it is an invalid bug? Try to understand the difference. Analyze the reason. If it is really an invalid bug, treat this event as a learning experience. If it was really an invalid bug, then it should act as a learning. You shouldn't get angry or disappointed. You should act like a learner, and then you should treat this event as a learning experience and reiterate and try to learn. If you think that it is a valid bug, you should confidently take further action to support your bug report. If you think it is a valid bug, then go ahead and talk to your product owner or PM or maybe the lead. You can discuss with them and tell them why do you think it is a valid bug, and you can give a counter argument and analysis to prove that it is a valid bug, and the other party can also come and they can also discuss. And I'll prefer you to go with the data and the kind of analysis and support your theory. So in this way, you can show that it was a valid bug. In either way, you'll get to know a lot, and your bug reporting and defect management process will improve, and you'll become a mature tester. You'll get to know a lot many different kind of techniques. You yourself can improve, and I believe in this way, no more defects will be rejected, and it'll become a very nice, effective, and a very important member of your team, and a very successful quality professional. With this, we come to the end of our presentation. This is me, Prashant Kumar, QA evangelist and software test enthusiast. I have done computer engineering and a PG in management from Howard University and ICMS. I'm having 30 plus years of experience as a Java developer, business analyst, test consultant, and finally quality head at major IT firms. I work with investment bank and startups across US, UK, Switzerland, Germany, and India. Feel free to get in touch for any kind of QA-related suggestion query. And I also provide private mentorship services. So if you want to excel in any QA-related, maybe software testing, automation, or you want to grow as a lead or business analyst or anything else which you want to learn from, if you want to crack an interview, you can take my mentorship services. I'll be more than happy to help you. Feel free to get in touch with me. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel for more such kind of videos. And before I end this presentation, I'll go to the question which Sheikh Imran has asked me. How can we test a product when the product owner has asked to deliver half of the product as delivery date cannot be postponed? So Imran, whenever you have a scenario like this, when your product is half complete, or on the requirement which you are working, it is half complete, and your product owner has asked you to deliver half of it, you can apply two kind of techniques. First, ask him to segregate the requirement, ask him to segregate the complete sprint into two parts. First, the one which are completed and the one which are not completed. And the one which are not completed, the requirement or user stories which are not completed, you can then postpone them to the upcoming or the next version. And the one which are completed, put them in the current or the existing cycle. This will reduce your scope. first thing. So your effort, planning, development, and testing, all efforts will be reduced. Second thing, if you're having a TDD approach or a automation testing in your team, then I'm pretty sure for all those requirements which are developed, or the half of the requirement which has been developed for them, there might be some kind of unit test cases developed by the development team or the automation team or a SDDT members. They might have developed all different kind of automation, and there'll be coverage for the code-related implementation and the functionality. In most of the agile environment nowadays, they have these automation test cases and they follow TDD. If you have it, it is good. If you're not, you can ask your product owners to implement this strategy. And then the third point, going to these requirements which are completed, you can take them and you can have something like a stub and driver module, what we generally use in automation. Same thing, you can use it over here. You can have dummy functions or a dummy test data for for testing such kind of requirements. As a matter of agile, it is always considered that you should deliver a minimum working shippable products, right? So if whole of the requirement is not delivered, or whole of the product, working product with all the features completed has not been developed, it's fine. Even if you have a smaller chunk of it which has been developed and which is working fine, you can go ahead and test it. And during the part of testing, you can have several dummy models, several dummy data which would be calling or providing the data to you, and you can test the exact requirement of the functionality or the implementation. You can go ahead and test it, and you can thus in this way you can show a shippable or the working model which is ready, which is developed, and which can be tested by you, and quality can be verified. So something like this can be delivered, and in the upcoming or the next version, whole remaining components which were not yet developed, for which you use the dummy data and dummy stub or dummy functions, they can be developed in the next iteration, and together everything can be integrated. So in this way, you can handle such kind of scenarios. Hope it resolved your query. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. And see you next time in my next presentation. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.